In today's video, we're going to continue learning how to repair consoles. Today's Game Boy was by far the most difficult, requiring soldering, retrobrighting, and a serious deep clean. I definitely struggled with some parts in this repair and just kept finding issues with this handheld. Make sure you stick around to the end for a special treat. Moving on, we're going to work on this guy next. So, DMG01, very yellowed, especially right in here. So what I'm hoping we can do is I hope we can retrobright this if we can get it working. It even still has this cover, which I'm a big fan of. So let's take a look at it. When I tested this before, we didn't get power. Let's just confirm that's still the case. Yeah, still no power. So we're gonna go ahead and get this disassembled and see if we can clean off these battery contacts with some vinegar and if that'll be enough. Now we've got this open, let's see what we're working with. That thing is nasty. Man, the board's got a little bit of corrosion on it. And there's just gunk all in there. Let's take a look at the other side. Look at the screen board. Oh wow. Actually, I've never seen that. A little bit of damage, I guess. The board itself also filthy. There's little bits of dust. Maybe that's corrosion all over it. And then again, just sitting there in the bottom of the shell. Gunk. I think... Well, let's stick with our plan to start. We'll go ahead and we'll try to clean these posts and just see if that gets it running. So to get to these posts, what I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna have to remove this board. There's a screw here, and then two right here that I'll have to remove to be able to get this board up and get a better look at the two battery contacts that are soldered onto the board. And there we go. So on this side of the board, let's get this guy out too. Probably want to clean inside this port. That's not that bad. On this side of the board, I don't see nearly as much gunk as we were looking at. Our battery contacts, on the other hand, those guys are pretty rough. So we're going to hit this with vinegar, and then we're going to dry that off with isopropyl alcohol, just to make sure that we don't have any damage. While I'm at it, yeah, I'll go ahead and I'll give this guy a good cleaning. But to start, we'll get these battery contacts on here cleaned, and we'll do the ones that are in the case once I have a chance to blow this out a bit. Now, to clean these contacts, we've just got some white vinegar and a soft bristle toothbrush to get that job done. I want to get in there a little bit better, so I'm going to take a Q-tip. While we're working on these, I'm going to just go ahead and take these contacts from that other Game Boy that we repaired and start soaking them and see if that'll come off. You can see that fizzing, so we know that it's working. So I'm not able to get in there as well as I'd like. There's still quite a bit on the back side. So I think what I'll have to do is I think I will have to remove these. I do have replacements for these. However, if I can, I'd like to learn how to save them. So I'd really like to be able to get them cleaned off and reuse them, but I really don't mind just replacing them. If I were to try to sell this to somebody else, I definitely just replace these contacts, but for the purposes of learning, I think it'd be a lot more interesting if I can get them working again. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove these so that I can dip them into the vinegar, because the vinegar has done an excellent job with those other two contacts. Figured it'd just be best to voice over this bit since I have a loud fume extractor running in the background. The first thing that we did is we added a bit of flux to the solder that we intend to work on. This just makes the solder flow a bit better to make it easier to remove the battery contacts. With that applied, we just needed to heat the solder joints with our iron and gently remove the posts with some tweezers. Once they were out, I decided to clean the area a bit. So I started off with some solder wick to remove some excess since I plan on adding some new solder later anyways. And then I just used some IPA on a cotton swab to clean up the remaining flux so that we don't have a sticky work surface. Now that we've got those posts removed. I've had them soaking in the vinegar for a little bit. They should be ready to go. I'm gonna go ahead and take them out, give them a little bit of a brushing, and then once they are dry, we will get everything put back together. I don't think I'll be able to use this. There's still a lot of rust. Yeah, there we go, that shows it well. So there's still a lot of rust, and I just don't feel like I'd be comfortable doing that. If it was just a little bit of battery corrosion here and there, it'd be one thing, but all that rust, and I don't have a way to replate these. So we'll just go ahead and replace it with a new set. I'm not giving up on saving them. I just don't have what I need to save them today, so I'm gonna look more into removing rust and replating, and we'll try to do that in the future. But for today, we'll just go ahead and swap these contacts out and use what we got. VoiceOver Matt is back to tell you that this was really difficult for me. Like, I'm a massive idiot, and this whole process took a couple of hours. If you read a single guide or watch a video, you can definitely do this yourself in just a few minutes with the right tools, some patience, and just a little bit of common sense. I decided to just read an AI overview and then try this myself. So don't do that. Anyways, here I'm just installing a new post. On the other side of the board, there's indicators telling you which side each post should go to, and the post holes are different sizes to prevent you from getting them backwards. Not that I know anyone who would spend half an hour trying to put them in the wrong holes. Looking at these a bit later, I think the solder joints look a little cold, and I probably could have used a little bit more flux, so we'll be touching up on these in the future as I learn more. I have a lot of upcoming projects where we'll need to do some more soldering, so I'll be getting much better at this, and I'm so sorry you all had to see this. Now that we got these guys soldered on, it's time to go ahead and clean up some of this rosin. So I'm just going to take a little bit of isopropyl alcohol and clean this down. Clean a little bit of the flux. There's rosin in flux, and then also sometimes the solder itself. If you don't clean it, it's really sticky, and that's not what we're after. We are now ready to reassemble this guy and see if that battery connection did the trick. I do see just a little bit of corrosion right here, so we're just going to scrape that away. Let's see if we power on. Oh, we've got screen lines. No. Oh, all right, let's see if we can load a game. Okay, our speaker doesn't sound great. We've got these screen lines. You know, they kind of go away with pressure. Yeah, so as long as I maintain pressure, there's no screen lines. It's just that our speaker sounds terrible. So I think all we need to do is check out this speaker, give it a really good clean, and then retrobright. So I'm going to start off by giving it a really good clean. We'll go ahead, get this guy completely disassembled, and then I'll take a look at the speaker and see if I can kind of figure out what's going on with that. It might be these battery contacts. It could be the speaker itself. I don't have a spare, so I'll have to order one, and we'll have to wait if I need to replace it, or maybe one of these other consoles can be a donor board. But we'll go ahead, get inside of this guy completely, and then start cleaning him so that we can work through the rest of the process. But super excited to see that it turned on. That was a nightmare to solder. You guys have seen the teardown up to this point, so figured I'd bring you back. Next, we're gonna go ahead and remove these 4 screws. This guy's not too dirty. We'll still get him cleaned. The shell, on the other hand, just kinda grody. Yeah, right up there by that power switch. That's gross. Well, he's about to get cleaned. To remove the screen board, it's really easy. You just look for these screws that are highlighted by these white circles. All right, and once you have the 10 screen board screws removed, now it's still being held in by adhesive on the screen. Now it should just come right out. The adhesive isn't on here at all. There's typically adhesive that goes around this screen to hold it in place against the shell, and it's not even on here. Whoever was in here before, they were creative. Okay, so I'm going to examine this board a little bit. I'll let you know what I find. That speaker is filthy. I think it's so gross. I do see just corrosion all over the board. We're going to get some of this corrosion cleaned up. At this time, I don't see a lot of damage. Let's take a look at the shell. We'll start off with the pads. Ugh. They're filthy. Again, they're also worn. I just don't know if that's normal. I'm sure everybody that's watching thinks I'm an idiot. And, ooh, hair. I love it when they give you that for free. Well, if you are hungry, at least they come with a snack. Oh. These things are disgusting. Alright, we're going to give these guys a really good clean. Just look at that D-pad. Yeah, all the buttons are nice and gross. The shell itself, speaker grill, it's really nasty. This is going to need some love. So we're going to go ahead and remove this guy. Since we twist the shell earlier, he just pops out with a little bit of pressure. And then, yeah, there is quite a bit of glue in here. So we're going to get this cleaned. We're just going to use some warm soapy water as we have been. And then any areas that need it, we'll use probably some isopropyl alcohol. All right, we got some warm soapy water, our plastics that we're cleaning, as well as a soft bristle toothbrush to get the job done. For the Retrobright process, I decided to use a type of hair bleach that contains 12% hydrogen peroxide, seal the shell and cling wrap, and then just let that sit out in the sun for a few hours, occasionally turning it to get the UV rays where I wanted them. Here's the finished product of our Retrobrighting. For comparison, here's the Gameboy that looked just about the same in color. So I couldn't get the edges as bright as I would like. They're not that bad. I mean, especially this edge, if you remember where we started. And the faceplate, again, I couldn't get it quite as bright as I'd like. There's still a little bit of yellowing. It doesn't show up well on camera. Looks better on camera. But it looks so much better than it did. A couple things I'd note here. If you're going to go this route for Retrobrighting, you should note this stuff is nasty. The bleach leaves a really greasy residue behind that just takes ages to clean off. It gets everywhere. It's really hard to control. It'll get in here and just take forever for you to clean. And the other thing is you can end up with splotches if something doesn't get coated very well, or if it ends up drying too fast. You can see right there. It's a little bit more yellow. So because of that, I probably wouldn't recommend you do this. I also don't know what it can do to the plastic over time, and that would be something I'd keep in mind. So if you are going to Retrobright, I just wouldn't go with this route. We're ready to get this guy reassembled. So I haven't touched the speaker. We're just going to see how it sounds again. I might have a donor board from a Game Boy that I plan on working on later, but it has a screen that's irreparable. So first we'll reassemble it, see what it sounds like, and then go from there, but I might be able to swap it out if needed. Okay, we are ready to finish assembly on this guy. It turns out just cleaning up that corrosion did all it needed to for the speaker, which is great news. And we are getting power. Now that we've got most of the dust removed, we're good to put on our screen protector. I've already got adhesive on the back of it. Great. I mean, I'm really happy with this. I mean, we went from not powering on at all and a bad speaker to a perfectly functioning Game Boy. Okay, I'm happy with it. You know what? I was being a baby before. This looks great. I mean, I still have a personal hate for the lines. They're a lot more visible in person. That looks great. I'm really happy with that. I also learned that we just can't get clean enough with just a soft bristle toothbrush. So we're going to need something a little bit more aggressive for the dirt on some of these shells. I wouldn't use it for anything aside from the shells, but man, I just couldn't get this guy clean enough. So that's going to do it for this video. Come back next time to see how we do on this guy. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Uh-oh.